Good evening, dandies. Welcome to Undetermined, the podcast.
I bought fertilizer and brake fluid. What the hell am I supposed to trust? I mean, War and Peace is a hell of a book.
It is.
I've never read it.
I did. It's not Tolstoy's best. The Kreutzer Sonata is a Tolstoy reference. On the new record, that song is sort of a Tolstoy reference.
Interesting.
And a Beethoven one. Yeah, it was supposed to come out last year, and so it's been like 200 years since Ode to Joy and all of that.
Well, I mean, you've got some family ties to literature as well, don't you?
Yeah. So I was kind of adopted, or whatever. I think that's the polite word that they use in the 70s for paying somebody money for a child. But I'm not kind of serious. But I mean, and you can't really complain in Ireland. Like, they just straight up sold kids, to New York or whatever over here.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. When I was growing up, I was kind of raised by my grandparents in Oxford, Mississippi. I mean, I grew up in Tupelo, but I would spend the weekends and stuff with them. And see, how am I related to William Faulkner? It's 2 times over. One of his parents' name was Murry Faulkner, and so the name, there were already marriages in the family before John Young Murray, William Faulkner's grandfather. There was another, then Sally Murray Faulkner and stuff like that. So after that, I was named after his teetotaler grandfather.
Huh.
Who was named after one of his relations, the last royal governor of Virginia, who was a loyalist and who killed my grandfather of that same generation biologically, like literally. Corntassel was his name. Yeah, isn't that America?
Wow.
Yeah.
I know.
That's fascinating.
I know, that's jacked up, isn't it?
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
I mean, that is America. That's America.
You've definitely got some interesting perspectives, I think, from that.
I think so. You do.
What made you decide you wanted to be somewhere else?
I don't know really. Probably the Occupy movement. Like, initially, like when I was involved in that, I think, after Oscar Grant was shot in Oakland, I can remember the next morning, or no, that evening, my daughter, she was probably, she would have been about 6 or 7 years old. Well, maybe 9, but she saw him killed on the news, So,
yeah.
So then we saw helicopters just descend on like our block. I mean, we lived really close to downtown then, and then we moved into the neighborhood, the old block that the Black Panthers had their sort of standoff on. So both times we kind of lived in these areas that were, people were getting fucked. I mean, it was a mess. I think after, it wasn't so much that as it was the realization that right after all of that occurred, Ferguson happened,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I just realized how fucking, I don't mean this as an insult to the United States as a place, because I love our country, but I'm really tired of our government.
Yeah.
I'm tired of our people giving way to, I mean, look, Donald Trump, remember when he was a joke in the 90s? Like, what happened?
Right.
He was a bankrupt guy twice. And if you, like, I have a musician friend who told me he was working at a golf course here, and he saw Donald Trump there, and Donald Trump gave him $100. He said he thought to himself in that moment, man, I thought this was a classy joint. And that was just a few years before before he was elected,
Right.
Like I've said to people, somebody says, well, how can that be true, John? I'm like, anything's true. Donald Trump is president. I think there's something going on that we have to, I think it's a great time to be a musician for this reason. And, I think there's a lot of stuff going on that we need a new perspective on life and on the world. Do you know what I mean? And I think
We do.
it's been a long time since punk rock happened.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since like people have decided that there were ways to rebel without taking an AR-15 and shooting somebody.
Yeah.
Like that there's ways to sort of collectively express things. And I think like when I talk to my daughter, she's 16 and she's huge. Like, I am too, but like huge Stevie Nicks fan.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of envisioning herself like becoming the Stevie Nicks that never was, if Peter Green, if there wasn't the earlier Fleetwood Mac, that kind of thing. And so she's kind of thinking about that, and I'm kind of thinking she doesn't really have a framework, to do that within.
Like the cultural.
Yeah, well, like, like, I don't know about you guys, but like, did you go to shows and things like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved going to shows.
yeah,
Mm.
I used to go every night in Memphis, Well, I'm not saying that was a great thing, but like, I didn't work or anything, but that's all I did. Well, it was a great thing. Who am I kidding? It was amazing.
Right.
It was. I mean, I got to see the Oblivions and the Rain and Sound and all this stuff when, Jack White was sitting there watching them, like ripping everything off. It was great fun.
Mhm.
But she doesn't really have that kind of scene, or just that thing to plug into. And I think that's really what's missing. I think young people are being taught, and I don't mean this politically, but I mean in terms of just action in society, they're being told to be, or taught how to be conservative,
Right.
like in lieu of just existing as they are, I mean, even though we hear a lot of rhetoric, I think we don't see, okay, here's a good one. Like the Mekons were playing in Austin at the Continental Club.
Mhm.
So at some point, John takes his shirt off, and he just rips the thing off because it's really hot, in Texas. I mean,
Right.
they'll tell you that until you take your shirt off, I guess.
Mhm.
And so, like, because it's all hat, no cattle, that kind of thing. I mean, seriously, like, it's a republic. Go ahead and go your own way.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I love telling people from Texas, they say don't mess with them. And you'd be like, well, fine, go to your own place. Y'all still call it a republic. Nobody's from Texas, sorry. I'm just kidding. Most of my biological family is, but so like, he takes his shirt off, and the guy running the venue runs up, and he goes, that's it, and pulls the plug. And John goes, what the hell, man? I haven't even cussed yet, really. Like, I just took my shirt off. And he was like, I'm not having this.
That's
And
enough.
he said the guy was 22 years old, covered in tattoos, like sleeves,
Huh.
and see what I mean? Like, I guess what I'm saying is just that
Right.
the appearance of something it's not the appearance of something, I guess, in my mind, isn't the reality of it. I mean, I think we've gotten to this place where we think, that or where younger people would think they wouldn't have the same experiences as we've had, would they?
Right. And I think one factor about that too is just, I don't know if it was ever really there, the safety and security we thought we had in this country, or
No, it never was.
Yeah.
Americans always thought, well, we're a country, we don't get bombed by anyone.
Oh yeah, right.
There's no wars on our shores. There's no, I don't know, insurrections at our capitals.
Right.
Yeah, no, like outside of, say, like Oxford, Mississippi, when the Kennedys sent the U.S. Marshals in to integrate the school, even that was like a tiny. They didn't want to call that an insurrection. Then they kind of moved over it, or the way that, like, I'm a half Cherokee, so the way that like a lot of, even within that family, the stories are gone. A lot of them.
Yeah.
Up to my great grandmother was born on native land, but before her, I can trace things, but the stories are kind of gone. It seems to be true for a lot of people. I think a lot of the white nationalist stuff tends to be related to a lack of identity.
Yeah.
A kind of a sense of being lost, and it's really sad.
Right.
I would like to say I feel sorry for people. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I would like to say I kind of feel sorry for you, but I don't really feel sorry for you when you're a Nazi.
Right. Or lack of maybe individual identity is a better way of saying it, because, they have an identity.
Yeah.
It's just a fucked up one that they inherited.
In lieu of a political or social identity, like a personal identity relative to, something that's concrete, right? Something real.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think maybe somewhere like the crazy fucked up conservative ideas started really going crazy is when some of that safety felt challenged.
I think so.
Right. When 9/11 happened, when Occupy jumped in there, when fucking all kinds of shit's gone down.
Yeah. And really, I wonder if this didn't, to me, it feels like it started back with, I can remember watching the Iran-Contra hearings on the news. And I'm watching, my partner is in Afghanistan now, and she's running a hospital.
Oh, wow.
In Helmand province. Like, yeah. So Kandahar was just, apparently, we're going to beat CNN here. Kandahar was just blown the fuck up by the Taliban, like the airport there.
Yeah.
So, like, there's this sort of, I don't know, there's this kind of, we have a very different relationship. Like, when I talk to my daughter, she's 16, she doesn't know a pre 9/11 world.
Right.
Like you're saying, like, so much has changed. The Patriot Act was, remember when that happened? That was a big deal.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yep. And never went away.
It never went away, but we don't talk about it anymore, you know?
No, we don't.
Not really. Or, you know, like my daughter wouldn't know. She would know. She knows how to hide under a desk from an active shooter. She does not know how to prepare for a tornado
Yeah.
or an earthquake, which I had to do in second grade. This is incredible. You know that Uncle Tupelo song that goes, Mr. Browning's got a prediction?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, there really was a guy named Mr. Browning, right? And he predicted this hurricane. I mean, an earthquake on the New Madrid fault line.
Yeah.
So I had to get under my desk for 2 hours in second grade. You know, it wasn't because of an active shooter; it was because of a man making crazy ass predictions. That's way fun. That's cool. That's great. I was sitting under there going, "Who is this guy?" You know what I mean?
No, we're from, well, John's originally from Illinois, but we both spent a lot of our lives in southern Missouri.
Oh, no, man. Woo. Yeah.
So we knew about that shit there, and people were worried about it.
Well, you got Reelfoot Lake over there. I mean, last time the river ran backwards, you know, it made a lot of that stuff down there. So, I'm sure. Shit, I imagine that's kind of. Well, hell, that's where all those lads were from Missouri and from Illinois. Like one of my good buddies is from Carbondale, you know. So kind of that area.
I've got family there. Yep.
Oh, do you?
Down in southern Illinois. Yep. Little Egypt, that area.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That used to be a pretty wasn't that it was a really, I mean, the two rivers coming together there, it was a very active industrial area for years, and it's interesting.
Yeah, the story goes that many years ago, the city of Chicago, on its when it was starting to get founded, wanted a loan from the banks in that area because they were doing so well, and they were basically laughed out of the area and said, "You're never going to build anything.
No,
you're nowhere near the Ohio. You're nowhere near the Mississippi River. How do you think you're ever going to build a city there?"
Right,
and dismissed them entirely, and of course, rest is history.
One of these days they'll get there.
One of these days. That's it. I mean, you know, I still that part of the country still probably more. This is a hell of a thing to say because you know you guys are. That's right on the border of the Mason-Dixon line, that kind of thing. So it's like you know, it's like you got the Jesse James kind of vibe going and all of that kind of stuff. But this is the truth. I would honestly say that part of the country reminds me of like life on the Mississippi and Mark Twain more than. Obviously, like not just because of Hannibal, but it actually looks in my head what the Bluffs would look like in Memphis before things change, things like that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Southern accents are a lot stronger than anybody thinks they would be. Well, I mean, when you look at it, I mean, Paducah, Kentucky is just like right there, you know?
Oh, man. Oh, I mean, seriously, like Missouri's kind of, I guess it's just historically been considered a kind of a battleground in a way. So it just never got embraced. Well, because of Mosby's Raiders and all of that kind of stuff, or Quantrill.
It's a little bit of everything here. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely gone a little bit more toward the Southern influence, I think.
Definitely conservative, as John's saying. Because, I mean, this used to be a bellwether.
Yeah.
You know, as goes Missouri, goes the rest of the country when it came to vote. But in recent years, it's all red.
Yeah.
You know, except for the little islands that we live on. Like, you know, you've got St. Louis, Kansas City, Columbia, those three major cities across those are all little blue islands.
St. Louis is always great fun to play.
Mm-hmm.
Strange city. Great fun.
Yeah. I'm in Kansas City.
Yeah.
And there's a really stark difference between Kansas City and St. Louis in personalities.
What is the difference? Because Kansas City had a huge, I mean, in terms of its effect on the blues and stuff, it had a much larger, you know what I mean? There's a lot, like the Hoover towns, the Hoovervilles that were in Kansas City and stuff. Those things were incredible. The ones in St. Louis as well. But the Kansas City, I think we've almost forgotten about. I used to be a huge Royals fan.
Right on.
George Brett was, well, I still am. Like, I mean, I had to go with the A's ultimately, but like, you know, I would go with the Royals as a secondary team, I suppose. But I never made it to Kansas City. See, that's sad, isn't it?
Yeah, you should come.
I will.
Oh, it's a great town. Yeah.
Isn't it?
We'll welcome you. St. Louis is much more like, the way I see it is St. Louis is kind of like a misplaced East Coast town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In my mind, like the people.
Yeah.
It's a little less open. They're a little bit more not to rag on them too much. I love a lot of people from St. Louis, and I've had a lot of fun there. But it's a little bit more, they're a little more high on themselves.
Yeah.
I think in general.
Yeah.
In St. Louis, and they think, they're kind of superior to everyone else around. And that's not all of them. I don't want to overgeneralize.
Yeah.
But Kansas City is a little more Midwest. It's like an overgrown small town.
I'm with you. Like Madison, Wisconsin was a town that a buddy of mine lived in for a long time, and it had this, I don't know, that Midwestern thing. I can get down with that. Do you know what I mean? There were some great bands up there and that kind of, I don't know, that Replacements kind of thing, the Minneapolis, St. Paul kind of thing. I like that. There's something sturdy about the Midwest in there. I mean, you got Cheap Trick and whatnot,
Right.
Oh, there's some great bands around here.
I grew up about an hour away from Madison.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, I'm wondering if so let's see. I would have known that band was incredible. The Something Aids. Brady was in that. And then there was a band called, damn it, I'll remember before this is over, because they were freaking incredible. They were just one of those problematic bands that likes to start trouble, but they were actually good, rarity.
Yeah, my parents moved me down to southern Missouri when I was about 18. So as far as a lot of the club scene, going to see shows, things like that, that was mostly a Missouri experience for me. I mean, we definitely had our music up there and, select record stores in Chicago, things like that I would go to when I was younger. But
yeah,
as far as attending those shows and stuff, it was mostly, Springfield, Missouri is where I saw a lot of bands come through.
Yeah, it was a 2-hour drive from where we were to get to anywhere. So getting to shows, when I was your daughter's age, I didn't get to go to shows. And really, what access I had to artists was just, people brought it in, someone brought in a cassette.
Yeah.
It's almost like smuggling or black market shit, because the radio didn't play it. We didn't have MTV there until I was in high school.
No, you're right. I think what y'all are talking about is the exact same kind of the way I grew up. I mean, we didn't have, there was nothing outside of going to, say, R.L. Burnside's place or Junior Kimbrough's place, or going to see bands in Oxford, Mississippi, which was a kind of a, people would stop through Oxford because they liked the town, not really because, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't one of those. So occasionally you'd see something kind of amazing. It would just happen there. But for the most part, there was nothing to see in Mississippi. And I kind of think it was a great thing in a way, because just like you were saying, I would get these cassette tapes of just weird stuff that,
oh yeah,
I got this, a tape off of a 7-inch that ran at 33, and it was Scenic, and somebody had just written Scenic on the side. And years later, I met Bruce Leisher, who started the band, and I was like, holy shit, you're like my hero, man. And it was that kind of, I had that kind of relationship with that tape, I loved it that much. I had no idea who the people were or where they came from. It sounded like the desert to me, it sounded like this cool place that one day I was going to go see, that kind of thing. And
right.
So there was something kind of great about it, but at the same time, I didn't hear the Smiths until I was I don't know, I didn't really hear the Smiths until I was almost 30, really.
Yeah.
Because we had the Connells and stuff. We had these kind of stand-in things musically, or,
yeah, or
country music. When I talk about that with folks, it's almost like I don't want to talk. You guys all understand. You kind of don't want to talk about it, because it's I wonder if some people even remember the country that, I was so relieved not long ago when Dan Auerbach put out that John Anderson record, and I thought, fuck, somebody else realizes that John Anderson was, had this Rolls Royce of a voice,
right.
I kind of thought he just disappeared. So it's a lot of stuff that I grew up with that I wonder, how widely heard was it, or
right,
who else was listening to the same kind of stuff that, say, we might have been, or
yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, the scene was just impossible to define, too, because, like you say, if you wanted to get good punk records or something like that, you went through a zine that somebody brought from New York or whatever. You got a cassette in the mail after about 3 weeks of writing somebody, pen paling or whatever, and you'd be like, this is the most awesome band. You'd share it around, and then you realize later that, nobody knows who they are. They were just some band from some, small neighborhood or whatever.
That's it. That's why I called Jeff Tweedy's parents.
Oh, yeah.
Because on the demo tape, I mean, it was still their phone number, but somebody copied the tape for me with the J card. It was their the Uncle Tupelo demo or something. I was like, fuck it, I'm going to call Jeff Tweedy. You know, and I was maybe like 17. I called and they were like, his mom was like, I said, is Jeff there? And she's like, who is this? I was like, is he there? And she was like, who is this? And I was like, so is this his mom's and stuff? And she was like, okay, listen. And I was like, just hung up the phone. And the other person, this is actually really sad though. Like here's another story like that. This is good. Well, it's not good, but it's brilliant. I looked up Dave Berman in the phone book in Nashville. Like back in the day, nobody blocked that.
Right.
And I just started calling. Like I needed to talk to Dave Berman. I needed to like understand I passed out on the 14th floor. The CPR was so erotic. That's so weird, man. I gotta talk to that guy. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so I would call, and finally his girlfriend was like, listen, John, probably not a good idea to call. Right now he's suicidal. And I was like, oh my God.
Jesus.
I need to talk to him. And she was like, no, seriously. I mean, I was a kid, you know, I didn't really understand that the guy was actually, but he was a sweet dude. And I don't know. I miss those days when these things were so they were right they felt like they were more at our fingertips, you know, and I don't know. I think that's John Boyle and I talked a lot about this. You know, we talked a lot about like wanting to create the same kind of environment so that our kids and other kids can, do you know? Yeah, they can do whatever the fuck they want. They can invent the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's still a few people like that, I think, who are, you know, are just a little bit of the older guard.
Totally.
It's like I get surprised sometimes the contacts that I have on my phone of people who've called me.
Yeah.
It's just like, you know, they don't want to message back and forth. The phone call might be easier or something for like a sound check.
Yeah.
And it's like, I remember one was just like, I think on the tail of one of our emails, I put my phone number in there for, you know, to contact if you want to call. So I get a call out of the blue and it's like, you know, middle of the afternoon, I'm letting my dog out or whatever. And it's like, hey, John, how you doing? No, this is Paige. So anyway, I got your email and it's fucking it's Paige Hamilton from Helmet, you know. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
So Paige Hamilton's giving me a call right now.
That's fucking class. Yeah. I need to talk to Maynard though, man. Like for real though. That's class. That's legendary. That's iconic. Wow.
It is. It's wild.
I'm humble.
It's surprising how often stuff like that works out for us, though. And I think John and I both just kind of like, how much longer is this going to last? How are we pulling this shit off?
Forever, lads, because when I was 14, that was one of the 5 CDs I hid from my mom. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like I had Helmet, and I had like Belly. I had the Tool record that had the pig on it, you know, and she was like, this artwork is grotesque and horrible and stuff. So I swapped another CD that was black in there and, you know, some random stuff like that. But damn, that is so sad. Like, I think once you're in it, lads. Like, I kind of think the older I get, the more I think, damn. Like, I was at a record shop in Kilkenny a while ago. And the guy that ran it, say a few years ago, before he passed away, Willie Meehan, I was just sitting in there reading a book and somebody said something to him, and I just heard him say, John would already have some money if, you know, he wouldn't be completely broke if you weren't in this whole music thing for the stories. And I thought, fuck, that's true. You know, because, like, you know, I thought immediately about the, like, things like that, you know, I don't know. These things are, if you love music, you love music. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you love it, you just do.
Sure.
It's great. It's great fun watching my daughter get into some of the stuff that we may have been into, may not have been into, but, you know, we would have had the same kind of debates with ourselves about, you know, whether or not this thing is good. Or, like yesterday it was Dave Grohl, you know, Nirvana to Foo Fighters, really? You know, that kind of, like, she was kind of debating whether or not that was okay. And I thought, well, that's gangster. You're already, you know, criticizing somebody who's pretty talented. But
I got an 11-year-old who Dave Grohl is my kid's life right now.
Oh, dude. Okay. Seriously?
Oh yeah, he loves it, but he's learning to play the drums and he's getting pretty good at it. So he's, you know, kind of got a role model.
Hell yeah, he gave the best advice for drumming ever, right? Like, I mean, I said this to John Boyle one time. I was like, you know, John, I think Dave Grohl said the best thing ever. He said the first thing you got to learn is if you hit 2 things at once and not one thing at once, it sounds louder.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like Dave Grohl really is that guy. You know, he produced a band out of Birmingham, Alabama. Do you guys know A.A. Bondi?
I'm not familiar. No.
Like Scott, he's on Pat Possum. There was a band called Verbena, and they were incredible. He produced the last record that they did, and just one of the most kind of one of the biggest sounding, I know that's a horrible word to use, but one of the biggest sounding records I've ever heard without losing edge, you know?
Yeah.
Like really, like had real nerve, real simple 3-piece kind of setup, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I just think Grohl has, every time I want to hate him, I can't.
Yeah. Oh, he's a great performer live, too.
Yeah, if you watch like Sonic Highways,
Yes.
we just actually watched that
Yeah.
with my family, you know, and I've really been exploiting the opportunity with my kid to really kind of get him to notice more stuff that's out there and kind of grow in that way, and it's been working. So I've been really excited about that. But if you just watch Sonic Highways, you can see this guy fucking loves music.
He loves it. I mean, this is the guy who saw it. He went after an Eve, you know, board that it made no sense really to, unless you love that sound specifically, like unless you have to get obsessive, you know. So this is just a guy who, I don't know. I thought for after Nirvana, and so I was kind of around that time. I know this is sound weird. I kind of thought Nirvana was a little odd. Like I was more into Miles Davis, which was weird, you know, for that age and stuff. But then Kurt Cobain, like after, I don't know, more like I was into the early stuff, and then I thought this is all commercial, and I don't know. I thought I was punk rock or something, but I was really just one of these little like jazz dorks, kind of, you know, in a weird way. And then the Foo Fighters come along, and you know, you kind of go, damn, this is much more sort of commercial or whatever. It's more digestible. But over time, I just thought this dude's a revolutionary. His positivity, his attitude about music, other people, like his sense of community. You know what I mean? Like the guy's just a legend.
Oh, it bleeds through, and I mean,
absolutely,
fucking, he catches you, man. Just kind of astounding. You know, whether it's poppy or not, Jesus Christ, he can come up with some hooks that will suck you in.
I think what I didn't want to say to myself was, God damn, he's good. Fuck him. You know what I mean? Like, I wish I could do that.
Right.
You know, because I mean, this is a guy that was playing drums with Nirvana. It's not like I could probably get away with that almost. Do you know what I mean? But maybe it wouldn't sound as big. But I mean, he's a hell of a guitar player, bass player, whatever, engineer, producer, all of it. You know, he's an amazing all around cat. And I think probably, I don't know, is he one of the, who else of that generation is kind of, who else went into that kind of territory of being that heavily involved in music, really?
As far as like getting other bands involved and everything else like that. And boy,
I guess now you've got me thinking, maybe Dave Grohl is kind of like Rick Rubin. You know what I mean?
A little bit,
in a way. I mean, but
not that producer-ish, but yeah.
No, not, but kind of in the kind of like, you know what I mean? In that kind of the way that he
making it family.
Yeah, making the family, like having the conversations about these things and keeping it together, because I think that's a lot of that's what I've had fun talking to my daughter about. I mean, Fleetwood Mac is the perfect band, and to talk about like dysfunctional family, you know what I mean, and to talk about like here's how a band can change and morph, and all the drama that occurs.
Yeah,
and I think all of that is it's necessary. We need these narratives again. We need this kind of sense of community back. I think after things kind of lift, I feel really positive about where we're going. I feel like we got to a place where things were so bloated, and kind of overexposed, and like that people not. It really doesn't matter what companies think, but what people crave is something or real things,
Right.
No, and I think maybe that's where, maybe that's the answer to my question initially of how do we keep getting these people? Because it always blows my mind. But I think the people that were interested kind of have that same spirit already.
Yeah.
It's been like really encouraging to know how many people actually have that spirit.
Yeah.
And I think in spite of it, that spirit is going to persevere, right? Because it's bigger.
It always does. It's so much bigger. It's the thing, that energy, that spirit, that's the thing, that there's those people that play for people, and there's those people that play with audiences.
Yeah.
That are a part, there's no separation. And the thing that I've realized throughout this time is how much I miss something that I kind of, I think anyone, if they're honest with themselves, can say there's elements of that I really took for granted. And there's things that I could give more to, and there's ways that I can make it more exciting for myself and other people. And so I think that's what we're, I think that if I look, I'm a negative like I'm a pessimist. Right. Do you know what I mean? I basically think humanity is lost. And
Right.
They were all, I mean, most of my songs are about how we're going to die one day and we don't pay attention. That's
Right.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to change this, but we're getting there slowly. Like, my kid said to me when I was in France, she was like, "Oh, bro, I thought you would like it there." And I was like, "What are you talking about, broski?" And she goes, "Man, like, the French," I was saying, "I don't understand them." And she was like, "Well, I thought you'd like them. They're moody like you are, but I really do feel like we have real opportunity here. Like, even like what you guys are doing, this podcast, there wasn't space. When did podcasts exist? They're incredible. Like, I love it.
Yeah, I mean, what, the last 10, 15 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I listen to them every night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're really right. Like, it's going to be interesting and fun.
Yeah. In the period of people, too, I think it's going to make a difference. It's just how we're going to adapt to that as far as technology goes, as far as the internet goes. And like you say, how the scene, is there a scene anymore? Is there, I mean, we've talked to musicians who don't even have a local scene that they played on. They just went straight online.
They don't. Yeah, and then that's my main concern is that I think and I don't think this has anything to do with the virus. This was something that existed before, but around the time that I released The Graceless Age, the shows that I played, there was a much more kind of engaged audience. These were still the people that they were the ones that had scrapbooked all of the gigs that they had been to, that kind of thing, And now I think a lot of those people have become collectors as opposed to honest, just lovers of music, There's more of a scene kind of within a scene. But you could play these shows that were energetically more engaged, or even before that, like when I played in the Dillingers or with Lucero, like some of those shows turned into absolute anarchy, So
yeah,
I think that we're at a place where, it's just, if you've been there before, it's your responsibility to show the kids.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, that's what John Boyle and I were talking about, was like causing trouble in a good way. Like, there's nothing wrong with, there's a place in Dublin called the Liberties. I'm moving up there in about a month and a little less. And so it's right outside the old city walls. And if you're outside the walls, then you were free. You weren't within the constraints of the Pale in Dublin, or under the sort of under British rule,
right?
Effectively. So you were outside of the walls, the same as the city of London is a city within, the city itself. And so I said, man, we should give some free shows to these free people. There's these little squares and stuff. And so we're going to do some things like that. I mean, I think it's really important that we all, that musicians, like, I mean, for me anyway, like, I want to focus on what gets me excited.
Right.
I want shit to happen. Like,
yeah,
that Tom York line, like, I wish it was the 60s. I wish I could be happy. I wish that something would happen. I do too, but I'm just going to make it happen.
Yeah.
I think that's what you ultimately have to do.
Yeah, it always is. But, I think we have real opportunity to create something to create scenes. Hopefully we haven't gotten too lost. I don't think we have in social media.
No, I don't.
No.
I read, it was a post I saw last night, and I kind of, sometimes you'll just see something and your head just kind of starts going places and you take yourself down this rabbit hole you never expected. So somebody had posted 50 years ago, like all these classic artists came out, or putting out, Elton John and Led Zeppelin and Bowie. And it's been that long since all of that stuff happened. Yeah. And it's like, holy shit, talk about staying power.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, true. So when does it end?
Right.
When did that era of kind of continuity end? I mean, I think about this a lot. Like, Layla and Other Assorted Love Songs, the record.
Yeah.
Layla, the song itself, it was played by one DJ in Oklahoma because the coda is really long. Jim Gordon, the drummer, he tagged that on to the end, and Tom Dowd just recorded it. And then he later, after the band kind of was about breaking up and Clapton's strung out on heroin and then starting to drink and everything, Jim Gordon killed his mother with a hammer and then went into a bar and said, "I think I just killed my mother with a hammer. I need to use your phone."
Jesus. Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Right.
But when that record came out, someone in Oklahoma kept playing it. This one DJ, it would have been too long, and FM radio was a brand new thing, right? So that was the first, that was 2 years after the record actually was released, and then it became a hit. So everything had changed for the band at the time. I wonder, what is we have a really interesting we have a really interesting sort of landscape of listening possibilities or mediums. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, to me, it has to be the people, right?
Hey.
I'm not much of a magical thinker where it's like, fairy dust was sprinkled on a certain decade that made it more significant. I mean, I understand there's cultural parameters. There's all sorts of things that happen. I mean, the Vietnam War influenced music, but all sorts of events influence music. But I think it's just the people behind it. It's like you look at a music critic, for example, today is nothing like, say, Lester Bangs was.
No.
For like Cream or Rolling Stone. That was a guy who, yes, he was critical of music, but wanted to change music for the better.
He was a part. He was a part of it. I mean, when in Memphis, living there, the story I would hear a lot was that the reason Big Star never really was heard in the way that you would have expected him to be heard is because the show was so damn good. When they flew all these guys down like Bangs and others down, they all got so high and stuff, and they enjoyed the show so much that they forgot to write about it. They were such a part of the thing itself. I mean, like when I found out the other day that Alan Jones is going to write about my record, this one that's coming out, I was like, he's done that the last couple, but it's always been like, holy crap, man, that the dude that like hung out with Joe Strummer and said that, like, when you left to go interview him on Wednesday, like you'd come back on Monday without one of your shoes. That's like was the expected thing. I mean, these guys were really a part of it. Like one of my music journalist buddies, Will Russell, we were talking about the same thing. He really feels though that a lot of it has more to do with the sort of the way that, and this could kind of be the sort of culture of things to some degree, but I think music has become like capital, like
right.
In a way, it's like a dog. It's like a dog that shits, that eats its own shit and then vomits and then eats that and does the same thing all over, and it goes like over and over again like that. I kind of think that like there's a refractory nature to the thing itself, and that, like, my daughter, when she asked me this, I thought, oh, well, damn it, we may have a problem. She may actually try to do this, music thing, because she said, like, but like, I like Stevie, like, but like, how do you got to do your own thing?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no. See, that's the thing, is that I think I can look and hear. I mean, more and more I can hear in music. I heard a lady say this on RTE on a review show here not long ago about a band, but she was just saying that she could hear all their influences. It was just almost too direct.
Yeah.
And I think there's a way that, like, it's a great thing. I kind of love to hear it. I kind of love to hear like younger bands getting into stuff that would have been a little kind of obscure,
Yeah.
I think there's a way that almost with technology, we've kind of lost playfulness. We've sort of created strange strictures for ourselves that have, instead of doing what Jim Dickinson said, he said that limitations make great records. Like, instead of these aren't really limitations. It's like endless possibility, and so instead of somehow energetically, like, I think there's records and I think there's things that you can listen to that carry emotional weight,
right.
And I think you can feel it,
right.
And I just think there's so much crap that doesn't, that we, that's what we remember about those legends that you mentioned earlier,
Right.
There's very, well, I just wonder, is it that there's very little that strives to be that,
I think, kind of going back to the limitations thing, I think it's possible, and it's really abstract sounding, but you set up parameters, but you can still stay unlimited within those parameters.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I think you can only stay unlimited within parameters. I think that's the thing. I mean, you need those limitations to keep coming up with possibility. Otherwise there's no problem.
Right.
It's the imperfections that are perfect. An
example that I think of, and this is a weird thing to bring up, but South Park.
Yeah.
I remember watching something on them, and they talked about like their struggles with like censors and people telling them what they could and couldn't do.
Yeah.
And they kind of got to a point where they embraced it. Like, okay, maybe, they find out they could make better jokes.
Yeah.
When they had those parameters in place. Like you remember the one with Tom Cruise being gay?
Yeah. There's the whole thing. I mean, the Scientology thing went all the way. I was living in Memphis when Isaac Hayes was playing chef, and the whole. I mean that the Scientology.
Oh yeah,
and the Tom Cruise bit is really connected to that as well. I mean, I think they really went after Scientology, didn't they? I mean, I love those guys. I mean, I'm sorry, and I mean, come on, Idiocracy. You didn't. There's some. Yeah, this is good.
But like the joke, they couldn't say that he was gay. In the episode, they were told that they couldn't, or that he wouldn't admit that he was gay, whatever. They were told he couldn't do it. So they went with the whole him literally being in a closet the entire episode. He won't come out of the closet. Right? And that made it so much funnier.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Well, see, this is the thing about comedy, right? Like, there's a certain amount, like, it's the, like, okay, when you go back and you watch Richard Pryor and you go, damn, that man is funny, because he doesn't go over the top until just for a second,
Yeah.
Like, the jokes are really, they're relatively benign, anyone's gonna lap it up, and then it just hits this point, and he uses the power of that. It's like a crescendo in a way, No, I totally understand what you're saying. Yeah.
What I was getting at earlier with the other point was tying in generations, and people were complaining, millennials aren't, cluing into some good stuff and, listening. And I made the argument, millennials are listening to more of that shit than people like us, Gen Xers, are listening to fucking, like, Time Wise.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Dorsey. Yes. I'm not listening to that shit.
No, I know.
Right?
I know.
Appreciate Glenn Miller and that stuff, but am I going to pull it out? No, on a daily basis. Fuck no.
I'm not sure he didn't work for the CIA. I don't really, I know he was a philanderer. So are we not? So are we not meant to cancel him? I mean, I'm not sure what's going on here. Like I'm just saying. No, you're absolutely right. And like it's also really interesting to see like my kid have this kind of better relationship with the same music that I got to listen to than me, because she's getting to do it with her own taste. You know what I mean? She's kind of going, that's what I dig, as opposed to this is what I'm told to dig,
No.
Like, it's interesting. It's great that way. It's I think for me, I think that's what I loved about music that was from a time before I was born, because it gave me the ability to conceptualize it without, like, I didn't have to know anything. It could exist on its own,
It's so much the journey over destination.
Yeah.
Yeah. It existed in spite of you. It existed before you and before anything that, happened to you.
Yeah. And so it's going to continue to, and it has its own sort of, these things could carry their own, I could give them my own meaning. I don't know. That's the thing I'm well into, like, maintaining enough space, like, for people to project what they like, to interpret things in a way that's necessary to them, whether it's in a good way or a bad way, but that allows them to sort of have a relationship with music they're not being told what to do. I mean, we have enough of that stuff,
It's allowing yourself to fall down that rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, when you go down that thing, you're not coming back.
No, I've been on it for my entire life. And I honestly, doing this podcast has only increased it.
Good.
It really has. And I love it. I love it. But at the same time, I'm just like, wow, it's almost exhausting when I stop and think about it too much. Because, like, there's this part of me that's like, I'm never going to be able to get to all of it ever.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's both inspiring and a little discouraging.
Totally.
If that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I used to think that I had a brain for music trivia, a great one, until we started the show.
Well, what do you think now? I mean, you mentioned Hellman earlier, and that's like John Argroves, this drummer I played with in Memphis. I think he and I both had like a yes. That was that kind of like, oh, we should play together, bro. That kind of, that moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it was that's one of those bands that, like, for whatever reason, I don't know, people kind of, I hear different folks mention them occasionally, but I don't know. Like I just think we have so much music. Like, who is actually good at music trivia? Is that kind of what you're learning? Is like, damn, you could get so into some stuff that you could never learn everything. Do you know?
Oh yeah.
On a daily basis, I am discovering new artists and things that I love.
Yeah.
And it makes me a little bit sad because I also I'm never going to be able to give them all enough time.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Like somebody's always going to get neglected.
Oh yeah,
man. I know. A buddy of mine said to me one time. He said, we digest music much more quickly than we used to, and I've thought about that. Now, I mean, I think there's some records that just I don't know about you guys, but I have some that when stuff sucks or when stuff's great or whatever, I'll put some records on.
Mm-hmm.
They're just there. They're always there, regardless of where I've lived. I've always gotten another copy, and things like that. And so I don't know. There's always these kind of go-to records. Yeah, but what were we talking about right before that? Sorry.
Just not having enough time for everybody.
Well, see, that's the thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. The more music you hear, the more you love stuff. Like how much space are you going to clear out? Do you know what I mean? Like for the new stuff.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. There's a way that I think we're almost, we're spoiled. Nowadays, there's so much good stuff out there that, you really have to be picky about what you let in because there's that much stuff out there,
Yeah.
Well, it takes your time.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a lot easier now, too. I mean, with technology, that if you got a pair of earbuds or whatever, you can just listen to that on the go. I mean, remember when you had to go home to a tape player or a record player or whatever to put on music, or the radio was just limited to, a few different cuts that you had to wait for to hear.
That's what's interesting about I guess that's what I was kind of getting at with when I was talking about Layla, that record. In general, that was the first album in that way that was played on FM radio that received, that had a really long song that had a conceptual arc, like the entire album and all of that gave way to I think that kind of gave way to people listening to albums as albums.
Right.
Before that, it was kind of like the single. I mean, there were other records, like the Beatles had made albums, but in the United States, that kind of gave way. Actually, no, that FM, that's when the single got kind of plucked off of the album. So, you have the sort of build up to what became punk rock, like kind of disco and all this stuff between, that was more single focused. I'm noticing though digitally now, there's cool Lou Reed's New York,
Mm-hmm.
All the outtakes are on Spotify now. I didn't know they existed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or the Replacements, my favorite Replacements record, now all the outtakes are on there. I didn't know there were any. That's class, So there's a way that I don't know how other people are listening, but I think I'm noticing younger people are kind of getting into vinyl and things like this in weird ways that I wasn't expecting at all.
No, vinyl is picked up.
Yeah, man. It's weird.
Yeah.
I think it has to do with a kind of a return to kind of, people want an album. They want more of a relationship with music,
Yeah, that tactile connection. You connect more when you're handling, that vinyl as opposed to push and play on a screen.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and with manufactured bands, I think it's not as easy to pull the wool over kids' eyes as I think the, record companies or music companies think it is.
Yeah, no.
They get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. I think we're seeing this in politics, right?
Mm-hmm.
As the old guard just ignores the reality of the way that kids actually exist, and now these kids are voting, you know what I mean?
Yep.
They're going, okay, no, abortion and stuff, gay rights, all that's great over here,
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, really quickly, or over there, Trump's gone. I think young people are probably to thank for that,
I think that's a big part of it. And I think, I'm finding hope in that. Right now, I think we needed that push. And I think the people that think a little bit more differently, not the, super conservative Trump is going to brainwash us all, but those people that realize that's happening are also realizing we got to fucking do something with what we've got right now.
Exactly, man. And that's I feel a real urgency when it comes to, I feel like, it's absurd to think that. It just kind of hit me one day. I was doing acid. I mean, I'm just going to tell the truth. I was doing acid and I was thinking, well, there's nothing else to do in Ireland. I mean, it's real pretty as well.
I'm surprised you have acid in Ireland.
Well, hey, you got to.
No.
Well, they got guns over here somehow too, and everybody and nobody was ever in the IRA. Like, how is that?
No,
How is that?
no.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's real funny that way. But like, so I'm outside, and I'm kind of thinking about, okay, like when music got boring and things changed and things happened, or when things came back together, what generally what was it, that gave the musician? Oh, they just did some shit.
Mm-hmm.
They just decided to do some shit. I mean, that's kind of,
Yeah.
that's kind of the thing. Like, things have to change because they change. It has to be real, and I think I don't know, that's kind of the realization that I had, that, like, being more insistent about the ways that you create and being more insistent about having a more direct relationship with the person that's listening to your stuff and all of that in a more sort of interesting way, like playing with things, like having a good time with it and all of that. Like, fuck, is money going to be worth anything in 3 years? Like, let's have a good time before then.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, like, come on. When people come out of this, it's going to be really weird.
It is.
They're just going to blow money real quick. So let's, like, make sure that there's some cultural fucking remnant, of something that mattered. You know what I mean? Like, we already kind of live in the digital dark ages. Like, I think songs, man, they get sung to people anyway. I mean, do you know where the word gringo came from? You'll love this.
No, I didn't.
I don't.
Okay, like, güero means, like, a derogatory term for white person in a way, in Spanish. But
Right.
gringo comes from this old Irish song, "Where the Green Grass Grows."
Huh.
So there was a battalion of guys that were fighting for the United States military that realized, like, they were fighting against Mexicans who were Catholic and who were fighting for sort of the freedom to be. So, in a sense, that's the way they saw it. And so the San Patricios, like, went and they just switched sides. And so they're still the most decorated battalion in Mexican military history, and they fought for Pancho Villa. And so, like, Rod Cooder and the Chieftains made a record based on the whole thing. But the song, they would walk around singing "Where the Green Grass Grows" as they marched, because they were in the desert, and they missed the grass, and what I mean, it's really green over here. It's weird. It's wet all the damn time. So, they literally, like, Mexican soldiers were kind of going, "Oh, here they come. Here come the gringos."
Wow.
That's interesting.
So it's actually a term of endearment, like,
Mm-hmm.
It's just one of those weird sort of, like, cultural things. I think music has an ability to move beyond the constraints of things like printed media or paintings or of all kinds of things. I mean, when Nietzsche said that, that music is maybe the only sort of, like, it's in a sense like the purest of the arts, because it's relative to the heart. I think that's true. I mean, I think it's really emotionally relative. It resonates with us, and so I feel that we've, for a very long time, like, we've just forgotten that. Like, we've just forgotten to sort of embrace the oddity,
Yeah,
and the weirdness,
Yeah.
and kind of, really not just like to do this kind of tolerate diversity thing, but to celebrate it,
Right.
and to embrace it and incorporate it. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but, like, when people ask me what I listen to, I think they expect me to say, like, I don't know what, but, like, I listened to a lot of hip hop
Mm-hmm.
when I was growing up. Like, that's 666 Mafia and stuff was, like, coming out of Memphis,
Yeah.
and all of that. So I think we have a really really strange kind of relationship, with, like, with possibility and stuff, and we can change it really quickly. I don't know. I'm banging on about this because I really believe in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you think there's something like just being in Ireland now? Because I personally, I don't know what it is, but I find myself just constantly, we'll go to Spotify, I discover all kinds of shit there. And it's a love-hate relationship.
I know. Me too. I love it kind of right now. I mean, it's great. I know what you mean. For this, yeah.
But I'll let it just, like, discover bands for me. And I swear to God, it'll come up with stuff, and I'll listen to it. Be like, yeah, that's kind of catchy. Who's this? And then I'll look them up. Another fucking Irish band.
Yeah.
Oh, it's kind of incredible. See, I don't want to get in trouble. And John Parrish even told me not to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. I don't give a fuck. Okay. U2 is a bit of a mafia kind of thing. And so once that happened, I'm just saying, Paul McGuinness he was real good at his job, but he would have never paid Apple, 22, 23 million to put out a record for free.
Yeah.
I remember when my daughter ran in and goes, "What the fuck is this on my phone?" You know, and the whole she didn't say phone. She didn't say phone.
Yeah.
She's like, "What's this on my phone? Who is you? What is you too? Who me too?
Oh,
What?"
yeah.
And I was like, "Man, delete." You know, and she's like, "It was free. I woke up with this thing." You know, and that was horrifying. But when I found out that they paid for it, that was even more terrifying because I thought they don't care about the value of anyone's music. Or
is that what it is?
Yeah.
That like fucking YouTube constantly, if like don't have anything set up when my car connects to my phone, it's like YouTube.
Well, like
I never asked you to play YouTube.
I mean, I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist or like a kind of like a QAnon kind of freak, because I'm not at all. But you can do that within music, and so you can be one of those weirdos. And so, you know, I'm going there. I have a couple of friends. I'll name them: Philip Brennan and James Taylor. I kid you not. His name is James Taylor. He's a great drummer as well. And Kilkenny, he plays in a band with John F. Kennedy Jr. Isn't that funny?
Oh,
and an Irish guy named James Brown.
Oh yeah,
I'm not kidding.
That's an awesome lineup.
Isn't that incredible? I know.
Yeah.
So they were selling stuff at a market in Dublin, and Bono got out of his car, and like Taylor looks at his phone and ding ding, you know, and this Facebook note, do you want to be friends with Bono and stuff? He's like, whoa, man, whoa. And he just got out this is weird. And then Philip was like, oh, don't be all paranoid and stuff. And the ding ding, and his phone goes off, and loads of people's phones went off. I don't know how these things function, but I do know that the guy was inside the G8 when we were throwing bricks at it.
Huh.
He's probably got like his own broadband signal that emerges from like his earring or something.
Well, yeah, that's it. I mean, they kind of see they did a lot for this country, but at the same time, just like Elvis Presley did a lot for Memphis, Jim Dickinson always said that when Elvis was after, it was sort of and this is what created a great landscape for creating music in, but it also it was like New York in the 70s, that kind of Sonny Rollins playing saxophone on the Brooklyn Bridge, you know, to the sound of the traffic and stuff, because you can't really make any money playing music, you know, or
Right.
that kind of vibe. I think that's still, and it's definitely a part of what happens here. And a lot of the musicians here are, you know, Americans. Like, I mean, it just makes I feel guilty for years. Like when I was like, Jesus, I don't know. And there's a real, I've met some of the, like a guy named Jerry Maloney, one of the most incredible musicians. Like, fuck David Hidalgo. And I don't mean that like that, but like, because David Hidalgo,
Right.
and I love Los Lobos. I mean, I take that back completely almost.
Right.
But Jerry Maloney, I would love to see him, you know, just going like kind of like a crossroads scene, like Steve Vai and Ralph, you know, whatever your man is named.
Oh yeah.
Like the kind of the accordion off thing, because Jar is one of the most incredible musicians I've ever heard, but like he exhumes bodies for the HSE, you know. He doesn't play music for money. Traditional music, just like Gaelic sports over here, they're inherently, like, they've always been seen as things that shouldn't and don't involve money, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't think, I wonder in the States, if you didn't have the Pogues, like, would you even know about the rest of it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for Spotify and you know, some of those other avenues, or knowing some Irish artists as we do,
check out a song called "The Patriot Game," and then think about it goes, my name is O'Hanlon and I just turned 16. My home is in Mana and that's where I was weaned. Right? All right. Think about this. My name, it means nothing. My age, it means less. The country I come from is called the Midwest.
I like that.
Dylan stayed in Wexford for about a half year. He loved the Clancy brothers, you know, and Liam Clancy. And so, you know, a lot of these rebel songs and songs that go back before that, they've been written and rewritten, and it's a lot like the blues.
Right.
But the musicianship is sort of, the connection to it is very similar. And over time, I've started to really sort of notice seriously strange stuff, like that the sort of loyalist Orange Order music up the north is very related to like the Arthur Turner stuff that I grew up around, you know. So these are black people playing Orange Order music, but I didn't know what Orange Order music was until I was over here, you know.
Yeah.
It's just their last name is Turner, and there's Turners up the north. I imagine that plantation owner named, you know, that's how lots of people would names were forced on them, and that the music was passed on. But they make their own drums and they sort of make their own fifes out of cane, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
but it's the same sort of music, and they wouldn't know that, so they've reinvented it. It's amazing how connected I think traditional forms of music are, because they're an inherent sort of, they're a thing that move with people, and they have to do more with need and poverty than anything else.
Right. Yep. Populist ideas. Yeah.
Yeah, but not
political necessarily.
Yeah. I think that in a place like Ireland, though, it's small enough, that you can still have, there's songs that, there's a way that songs kind of contain everything I say is, there's a way that there is no structure to Irish traditional music, but it tends to sort of structure itself as it grows over time. So like the drums, relatively, they wouldn't have been an addition until the chieftains, I suppose.
Yeah.
That's a fairly, even the Balron, it's a fairly recent addition to Irish music in that sense. But you've got this whole history of show bands over here. I don't know if you guys have, John Boyle, has anyone talked to you about this phenomenon?
Nope, I don't think so.
Like Rory Gallagher and Van Morrison would have come out of show bands, like these bands that were playing sort of like, for the most part, the hits of the day in a way, and they tended to all have like American names, like the ones in Cork.
Oh, okay.
The ones in Cork, like their big band was, and these bands were they drew far larger crowds than people do today.
Mm-hmm.
They were that sort of revered. They're huge, very competitive circuit.
Kind of the dance hall bands.
Exactly. Like it was totally dance hall stuff, and everybody went to these things and they loved it and everything. Like Roy Gallagher would have come out of that as a guitar player, and Van Morrison would have come out as a front man. There's a really amazing way that loads of these musicians that I've played with, and musicians who are even younger, they all kind of their parents or uncles, were all musicians in these bands, and then their folks were musicians in other bands, and there's this kind of amazing kind of way that music is passed on here that I think it's kind of phenomenal. I think it has a lot to do with the size of the place, and that it was an island, so you couldn't get off of it until not too terribly long ago,
Mm-hmm.
unless you started swimming or got on a boat. And I think that it's been competitive in that way. U2 was so representative of Irishness for so long that I think a lot of people missed out on bands like Whipping Boy. I mean, Whipping Boy is an incredible band.
Yeah.
Or A House, or Endless Art is one of the most that should have been that incredible song. Dave Cowles is a genius. There's oh God, I mean, Oh Emperor is a great band. Fontaine's DC, I think they're starting to get noticed.
Yeah.
Oh man, I've been getting that. See, that's one of the ones that Spotify has just got me like, God damn, these guys are good.
Yeah, very good.
Have y'all gotten to see them play yet, though?
Oh no.
But I've been listening to Televised Mind like over and over.
No, it's great, right? It's incredible.
It's great. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, when I saw him playing, I was just like, holy shit, this is like big, like Mudhoney. What? Like this is something different, and something that you both hear and physically feel. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It was that kind of, damn, this isn't bullshit. This is for real. This is great. Like, happy days. We got some good music now. I mean, it was the fuzz was incredible.
Them Pillow Queens I've been getting into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost little bit Dave Grohlish is just, man, their hooks just suck you in. Really good stuff.
Did you check out the girl band stuff?
Yeah, I'm definitely getting more into that stuff. Falling into that rabbit hole.
Just there's a band called Girl Band, but there's not actually a girl in the band. Like they're
They're
a Dublin band. Like their first record is incredible. Like Seamus Fogarty, his stuff is amazing. He's on Domino. We're kind of spoiled for it over here, like, I mean, you can walk into a pub and see someone play an instrument in a way that, you would call virtuosic or whatever, if you were in the States, like and you'll see people playing, say, fiddle in tandem with one another, or 5 of them playing the same fiddle line. And they really are just playing along to the melody, hearing it.
Yeah.
They're not reading. They never will, and they don't want to. I mean, it's incredible that way. Like it's forced me to become a better player and a more sort of in tune player,
I wondered, if some of that was what maybe pulled you in that direction.
It is. I got really sick of excess in that way. I got sick of California. Like I got sick of the sort of like I got sick of America. I got sick of neoliberalism, and I mean like materialistic, nonsensical. Like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? Like, I'm trying to make rock and roll, and you dudes are wasting time. Like, this is weird. You know, that kind of vibe, like that whole thing around the time that the Greatest Age came out. Like, I don't really know if I noticed things changing, but some of my friends that were older than me would say to me that they kind of thought I was insane, you know, for taking, say, what I've been told, you know, is you know, like, say, one contract, they'd be like, Jesus Christ, like, this is awful. They'd say, okay, I can't believe you're doing this at all, John, you know? And then I would find out it's actually not an awful contract at all. It's better, you know, that kind of thing than what's happening at the time in general. I think that, I think it's difficult. I think it's difficult for people to choose to be willing to die for this shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know, I think that's really it. Like, I had two teeth extracted this last week. Like, it gets weird. but I think that, but I do think that the music's worth it. Like, I really do. I think that we have a responsibility to sort of force the personal back into into music so that it can become the universal in a sense, and so that it can connect with people, you know, because there's not, I mean,
right.
There's not a lot of stuff that, I mean, I don't know, like, I'd like to know what you guys think, but there is a lot of stuff. I take that back. But relatively speaking, my access to music growing up was really limited, you know? There was always something, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was always something. And it was, I mean, in some ways it was really limited, you know? I wonder, you know, if you took today and you kind of put it into the tiny record shop that we had in Tupelo that had very little, that didn't exist for most of the time I was there. And then you took kind of the radio and some of these things that we had access to and what you would have heard. If you took a good bit off of that, like today, like with the landscape that we have, how much of it is kind of just pretty mediocre? How much stuff do we kind of allow? How little? Like Lester Bangs, right? Would he tolerate a load of this shit? No. Like he would call it shit, you know?
Right. At the very least, contrived, you know, and derivative.
Well, even Pitchfork's contrived, isn't it? I mean, the irony is built into the name. I mean, like, we David Foster Wallace ourselves a long time ago, do you know?
Right.
Like it really is kind of infinite jest. I think we've kind of hit a point where we really can, you know, just create things that are real and renegotiate the musical landscape, because we have access, just as musicians and as artists, to a direct sort of link with the person that's listening to the music. But what you were talking about earlier, I think this is important. What is music without the experience of live music? You know, I mean, I've just realized over the pandemic that as much music as I listen to, there's almost like I've hit periods of kind of having almost this kind of a depressive kind of state, because I can't go to shows, or I can't play, you know, shows. Can't play loud electric guitar and things like that, and it's just different, you know. It's way different. I think that energy, that's the thing that we have to take. I don't know. I have to figure out how to take advantage of that again, like how to create things that are more meaningful in a way that's not just, it doesn't just appear to be sincere, but it's real.
Yeah.
Well, and it was so taken for granted before too, I think. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, and you're seeing articles about it everywhere as well, but I'm anxious about that. Things are turning around here in the States to some degree. Like, I'm fully vaccinated. Matt's fully vaccinated. We could go out to shows.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, how do I even, human anymore with people? And, which show do I pick to go to, and how is that going to be? And the anxiety is just weird.
I know. No. I think about that too. I mean, like the agoraphobia that I feel sometimes, just, I think this is something that we all had to deal with a lot of stuff. And I think it was actually a really good time to sort of, I think everybody maybe had a period when they fell apart, whether other people know or not. I mean, I tend to tell everybody if something's wrong, you know? Mm-hmm. So like, but I think it's a good time to fall apart a little bit, and kind of, but I think we all did kind of learn to be a bit more agoraphobic. So coming out of this, we have to be seriously cognizant of other people's space. But I mean, when was that, ever a Western ideal?
Right.
It may have been an ideal, but I mean, America was built on rape and murder.
Right.
So ultimately, like, personal space is not a great concern, and it's a good thing maybe that we learned a fucking lesson or something. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And I think, yeah, that stuff kind of leads itself into other things too. Like we do find ways to get it out. Like John and I have talked about this before. Hate the pandemic. It's been fucking great for us.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
right.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I hate the damn thing too, but in a lot of ways, like, I think I kind of needed this. You know what I mean? I needed the universe to go stop.
Yeah.
Just for a minute, just stop. You can't do anything. You know, you can try and watch a load of documentaries and understand some shit that doesn't really matter at the end of the day.
Right.
Or you can just give up, you know, and kind of, I mean, I think that was a great thing. And I think that people started to turn to these things like, I mean, you guys have noticed like an increase in listenership, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. During that time.
But like there's more of an interest in the podcast or in music or in film, you know, like these are the things that people turn to, you know? So we're really seeing like the sort of power of just sort of the raw, I don't know, maybe the raw kind of whatever it is of the internet, you know, like of the digital age. Like people are able to sort of quote unquote vote just by saying, look, this is what I turn to when things are rough, you know, and that's a value. So we're watching movies and we're listening to music and we care about these things again. Podcasts, we want to talk about these things. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
This is good. This is great. You know, this is good stuff.
Sure.
Right. And it's not a format. It's a much more friendly format, I think, or it should be, in that it really allows, right? It's not an interview. A fucking interview, man. I'm not interested in asking the same people the same questions over and over. I'm interested in having a conversation and getting to know, you know, and that's, for me, like listening to artists forever. You know, how many times have you listened to a song and been, fuck, I would love to talk to that person and just kind of get into their head.
I mean, there's a couple of exceptions to the rule, but they're only because of their ridiculousness. Like, I read where one guy, No Depression, asked Jay Farrar, like, do you ever clean the house listening to Girls Just Want to Have Fun? You know? And I mean, I would love to, you know, he said, no. I mean, the scene, like that stoic bullshit. I mean, real boy, like, no. You know, but I mean, yes, you do. Everybody does. I love it. Cindy Lauper's a legend. She is like, you go watch her doing Barbarella with Scott Weiland, and that shit is incredible. Like,
she's actually crazy talented.
She is, dude. Oh my god, like she's cool as shit. She's just an amazing woman. You go watch old like Rage TV, sort of her as a presenter at night, like on Australian television. It's incredible. I don't know. Like, this is kind of what Will Russell and I were talking about, but the way that artists tend to engage questions, or the expectation that questions will exist. Like, a lot of the interviews I get, like Chuck Prophet and I had this thing going for a while where if they sent us shit, if a magazine or some shit sent something to one of us that just had questions, you know, in an email, and it's like, here you go, email it back, and then we'll kind of write it like we wrote it or whatever. We would give it to the other person, you know, and we would trade and just make some crap up. It got really weird, you know, like it really did get weird. Like, I got him in some record books for catching the biggest bass on Western Mississippi. I'm serious. Like, and this guy got real mad at him. Seriously, this guy got mad at him and said he knew the depth of that lake and there's no way he could have done it. He couldn't have done it. I mean, that was why I made it up. I mean, or the time when, like, I asked Lucinda Williams, like, if I were a bass player as Chuck, would you have sex with me? And she was like, you wouldn't have to be, but dude, it backfired. She said, you wouldn't have to have sex with me. And then I met her later and she was making, kind of letting me in. She's like, you can call me Lucy, and saying all this stuff. And I was like, whoa, my God, Lucinda Williams. Yeah, and her fiance's laughing at me over there in Chuck, and then they're just having a field day. They already said he's the one that asked all the inappropriate questions. that Magnet magazine thing. But, you know, like, the way that we're engaging one another here, this is representative of, this is a conversation,
right?
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that's the thing. I want to know, like, what people are like. I want to know how they think, or I want to see it happen. You know, I don't want to, like, this is what Will was saying a lot, but he was saying he doesn't think that a lot of folks have wanted to let, and they've been discouraged from letting people into their lives. you know?
Right.
Like there was a time when like Almost Famous, you know, when journalists followed, you would have these, I don't know, these kinds of long form narratives, like they existed more in journalism, and now we're seeing them come back with the podcast, and this is just great, you know, because we're actually getting, I don't know, we're getting more than just sound bites.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think for a little while it'll take a lull, or it'll take a dip as more people are, you know, going out.
Yeah.
I'm free, and you know, I'm vaccinated. We can go out to do anything. Let's go eat 10 pounds of ice cream and watch 3 concerts, and it'll be that for a little while. But I mean, people were interested in this format prior to the pandemic too. It's not, you know, something born of it. It's been around for a decade or so, and people enjoy that long form. Yeah,
they do.
I'm pretty sure it'll continue. I don't see how.
No,
you know, it's and it's all about the conversation, like Matt says.
Totally.
One thing I've always hated is people who say, I don't care for art much, or I don't care for music much. It's like, how can you say that when
how can you?
There's so many different varieties of it.
Like, I kind of don't trust people that don't have a creative outlet, because I think there's something, you know, that's what serial killers lack sometimes.
It's a little creepy.
I mean, like,
yeah.
It's real creepy when you're kind of like,
right.
Or at least you don't have to be like creative, but you have to at least like appreciate it.
Yeah.
No, that's what I mean. I mean, I think the appreciation of it is in and of itself. Like, I think journalism, you know, at its best, like music journalism at its best, it is, and it's a big, like, Lester Bangs is a musician as far as I'm concerned. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
right. Or Nick Toucher, any of these guys, like Alan Jones, like.
Mm-hmm.
I think like you guys, y'all are an inherent, like, y'all are built in part of the conversation. You know, y'all are a part of the thing.
Yeah,
I think the ego has really become a huge part of our world. I mean, Donald Trump was president, so I think he was like, So
I'm just trying to forget.
You know, so like, I know I'd like to forget too, but I think if we
got to remember.
Yeah,
you know, I think we had there was a Kaiser, and then, you know, you had Hitler and stuff like that too. So I'm just saying, like, probably best we realize that what we reward in the United States tends to be narcissism and toxic narcissism at that. You know, a lot of the time, like, and I think that's gone on in the music industry for a long time.
Yeah,
I think that's starting to change. I think we're starting to see that change just by default of, strangely, because the sort of the platform is just, I suppose, more open, or
right.
the way people listen, it has changed. But it's going to be, I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting to see. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what's coming up, you know, because I feel like we've had a good bit of time where we've got some great stuff out there, but we've also had a good bit of time when we've had things that were really referential, and I think we've got kids that just want to do some shit, and that's gonna be really interesting to see.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
What are they going to come up with?
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah, and I think the most important thing is just to keep encouraging them to do that shit too.
Yes,
you know, so many people in our generation, I think it is particularly like kids of the 90s and 80s, and you know, so many were told, you know, well, you know, don't just do that art thing or that music thing, or just do that in your spare time. You know, let's find you a job.
Yeah,
all right. Let's be practical.
How much creativity was killed as a result? You know,
Dad, I knew you guys were there. It's Mom. Yeah. See, that's the thing. I have this like real internal guilt every time I'm like, all right, Evie, here's the thing, man. If you're really not
right.
If you're not going to go to school now, man, like, look, you got a great backstory. Like, you could use me way more than Rufus Wainwright.
Right.
Loud Wainwright. Like, you know, like, I really fucked up when you were a kid. Like, so just go with that. I'll play guitar with you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm wondering, like, I've kind of gone, like, I mean, do you encourage, because I can build a little sociopath that way as well. I mean, we don't know what we're doing, you know, but no, you're absolutely right. Like, I think it's really important, right?
Yeah.
But we do have that, like, we have that awareness, I think, as adults. And like, I think I accidentally did something good in parenting and just feel bad about it. That is so messed up.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No, but I don't. Kids want to forgive, right? They want to move on.
Oh, no. I mean that I encouraged her to be a musician. I think that's way more dangerous. Yeah. No, I'm saying that in sort of approving of her, kind of going, okay, man, like, if you're going to go for this, you need to get serious about it. And like, I'll be supportive of that. That really is something that, like, I can remember the day that I was in Rolling Stone the first time, and like a friend called, and, you know, my folks were out, in California, and we went and got some issues of the magazine, and so I look at the thing, and then we're driving back, and my mother goes, we go by this oil change place. She was like, you know, you can get a job there. You know, I'm like, well, she told me I was going to get shot too for moving to California, because people live on top of each other, and I'm not sure there's not some truth to that, but the getting shot part, I mean, that was always a danger growing up. You know,
Sure.
I was fine out there. Yeah, Mississippi's a hell of a place. Like,
yeah. Well, it's a danger. It's everywhere. You know, we found it in schools in Arkansas and Colorado.
Yeah. Being that kind of parent, I think, can be kind of. I was just thinking about Johnny.
Yeah.
You know, with his dad and like the story behind. And by the way, you know, I love his story about recording with you and.
Well, like, did he tell you about bringing his daddy's ashes over to?
Yeah,
that's what I was getting to.
I mean, the way that he did that, Johnny is. I was like, look at you, man. I mean, when I got to Rockfield, like, and he was there in his little V-neck sweater kind of thing with the Oxford shirt and everything, and his bloodshot eyes because he didn't sleep the night before. I was like, look at you, like the Irish chauffeur in Downton Abbey that never was. You know, it's like this because it was real posh looking and stuff. I was like, they're gonna kick you out soon, Johnny Boyle, like, you know, and all this stuff. John Boyle is just he's a legend, but he got a little bit of ashes through, and I guess his daddy's favorite couple of records were hang on, let's see if I can get this right. I won't feel bad if I don't. It's Sgt. Pepper's and Dark Side of the Moon, I think. Yeah. Maybe not Dark Side. Well, on Pink Floyd and the Beatles record. And so he put some ashes in the back and stuff. Their relationship with his relationship with his dad and music, it's incredible, isn't it?
It is. It's awesome, and I love Johnny. He is just such a cool dude. But you can tell, like, his dad was pretty powerful part of that.
Yeah.
For anybody who didn't catch that episode or anything, he kind of snuck the ashes in to Abbey Road and then just kind of, stuck them in the dirt, nobody looking. And I think the best part about that is the idea of, better to beg forgiveness than ask permission.
Yeah, man. Break the law. Break the law. Like, that's what I'm saying. I was smoking weed out there as well. Like, I mean, and my manager at the time said, you taught me something today, John, that this is just another building. You're goddamn right. It's just another building. Like, things need to be alive, and like, we had a great time at Rockfield because I intentionally did some insane things, like didn't finish songs. Like, I had COVID while we were doing a lot of the tracking, like the actual I didn't know it at the time, like, but I did, like, so I was seriously I felt horrible, like, towards the end of the initial time at Rockfield, but like at the same time, like, it was just this really kind of weird and trippy experience. John Boyle is one of the, like, there's a handful of musicians that I play with that I can that I have this kind of weird, how do I know what you're doing and how do you know what I'm doing and what I'm about to do kind of thing, and he's one of those guys, like, just seriously one of the finest, like, human beings and drummers that I've ever met, just fine.
He's a great guy and super talented too.
Holy shit.
And modest about it, really. I mean, he's just like, he'll talk, like, every time he talks to someone, it's almost like, yeah, you're really talented, but he's not giving himself, like, really the due that he deserves.
Here's the credit he deserves. The only thing that's not edited at all on that record is his drumming.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, there is no click to the vast majority of that because, I mean, some of it's built like weird kind of Nagra tape loops and stuff like that we put back together, but John, like, is he's in a lot of ways, I think, the backbone of that, and the the way that he plays dynamically and still plays loudly all the time. I mean, the amount of power that he plays with, but then still the dynamic range that he has. I've never met another drummer that can do that. That can still have that sort of dynamic range without ever really getting quieter. Do you know? I mean, it's kind of like a. I would say John Boyle's better drummer than Dave Grohl. There you go.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you know? Like, I mean, he's like, yeah, I think so. I would rather play with John Boyle. Well, I would. I mean, I think John Boyle is he's one of the best rock drummers around. So
it's
just genuine, down to earth guy on top of that.
Yeah.
That's it. He just loves complaining about the neighbors and how Guinness was out of widgets and things, and so he thought that was the end of the world for a while. And like the other thing I think is like John's done a great job, and this is a thing that happens here. It's not that big of a place. He's done an incredible job, and like Mick Cronin is down here. Like they're about the same age. They're both drummers. There's loads of drummers that wouldn't exist if it weren't for those lads, or like Jeremy Hickey and Kilkenny.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these guys that are like my age or older, like they really share it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And it's beautiful that way. Like these young lads really can play because they really wanted to be like these guys. I mean, they were heroes, in the way that like Greg Cartwright was kind of a hero to me when I was living in Memphis and stuff. I was like, I just want to be Jack Oblivion or Greg Oblivion, that kind of thing. I think they had these people that they could literally learn from. And John's done an incredible. He's a brilliant.
Well, and he's literally a teacher right now too. Mm-hmm. And I wondered, like, how much fun would it be to be in one of his classes?
I wonder if I don't think I could hack it. I mean, I don't want to. I don't. I mean, like he during those sessions, like I kept forgetting that we weren't recording because in between takes we just kept playing, and he would play during, he'd eat lunch and then go back in there because he just liked the sound of the room so much.
Yeah.
That kind of love of it, it's great. I mean, that kind of thing is infectious. See, that's why you can't say, I always feel guilty about putting out records with my name on them because of people like Johnny Boyle. Do you know what I mean? It's not.
No, that makes sense.
John Parrish said towards the end of the recording, like he looked at my manager at the time and he said, like, is John going to be available for touring, and stuff? And she said, yeah. And he goes, good, because he's an inherent part of, or just an integral part of the sound. And he is,
it's really evident he feels the same about you.
Oh,
like he just such high raving. Like I'll be honest, I didn't know who you were until he brought it out.
That's good. That's funny. Yeah.
I'm like, well, I got to check out this guy, and
yeah.
I'll be honest, like, I feel like I fucked up in kind of getting to know you musically because Johnny had such high regard, and then I go and I read up on you before I start listening.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you've got all these accolades, and there are people that just really fucking love you.
Yes.
And then it was like almost put too much expectation in my head, like not expectation is the right word, but pressure to really connect. And it took you're also a little bit, and I mean this in the best way possible, of an acquired taste.
Oh no, I think yeah. I think that like with this record, like I'm trying to sort of, there's a way that I think I didn't realize how almost like you can hide behind art too. Do you know?
Yeah,
sure.
So like I think that there's a way that like I've been really insistent about doing weird shit. Like I mean I've been really insistent about sort of throwing strange stuff into things that or removing things from things that maybe feel that they should be there. And no, I agree. I think I don't know. I think it's funny that I've gotten the accolades I have. Do you know? Because I don't really get it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the whole thing is great fun, but I'm curious. Like, would you have thought that what you heard sounded like what you read about?
No, but then again, I don't have anything that's easy to compare you to either.
Well, no, but I mean, like, say the press that you read and stuff. Like, did you think that it was going to sound the way it did when you heard it?
I probably expected it to be a little bit more straight up folksy.
Yeah, there you go. See, because it's effectively like it's marketing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like I don't like America, and they call it Americana. Like America killed like half of my relatives. Like, why would I want to?
Right.
It's funny. Like, I mean, I think there's a load of hip hop in the stuff that I do. I think it's really, it's kind of strange. I think that, I think that, I think that's kind of what I meant about just, the musical landscape. It's really gotten narrow because it is an acquired taste. But like Jim Dickinson said, and I really think he was like one of the greatest ethicists of rock and roll. But he said like one time, like, if 16 million people like the same song, John, there's nothing wrong with it.
Right.
You know, and if it doesn't insult somebody and like 16 million people can like the same thing, then it must not be about anything.
That's an interesting perspective. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's something kind of, there's something that's just like when it becomes so universal, it becomes impersonal, then it becomes a commodity.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No, that totally, we stop interpreting it the way we're supposed to. Like, look at Born in the USA, right? It's become like this American anthem.
Thank you.
It is about how fucked up this country is.
Don't you kind of love that Ronald Reagan screwed up that bad and was like, he wanted to use that for like one. Isn't that great? That he's like, we need more patriots like Bruce Springsteen. Yes, we do. More people saying, I was born down in a dead man's town. First kick I took was when I hit the ground. You end up like a dog that's been beat too much. Do you spend half your life just born in the USA?
Yeah.
Isn't that ironic? Like, it's real weird. I mean, yeah, that's great. Walker Percy loved Bruce Springsteen, and this is a really strange one. Gary Talent goes to the church that I grew up in Tupelo.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that weird? Yeah,
that is wild. Yeah,
he's a really good guitar
world.
player. Well, yeah.
But I have noticed kind of an emergence, or maybe I'm just recognizing it more, and that's kind of where I've been leaning lately, is toward like the punk / folk music, because it's a real thing and it's fucking awesome.
Oh, like, do you know Jinx Lennon over here? Like, he's sort of one of the godfathers of this whole thing. Yeah, or like, do you know Dan Byrne?
I don't. Over there, I've been getting into Mick Flannery lately.
Oh yeah, no, Mick's down in like Cork. Oh God, man, those records are. That's interesting how you kind of. Okay, I see what you're saying there. Absolutely, that is what it is. Wow, that's cool. Yeah, no, that is what it is. Adrian Crowley's great that way as well.
Okay.
Galway lad, like John Parrish did a record with him recently too. Yeah, I'm into a lot of I'm hearing a lot of that kind of stuff as well. There's a woman over here named Bronwyn. It's Branwen.
Okay.
And her stuff is just incredible. I mean, that's her doing everything as well. Like,
Johnny's talked about her on because was it Dave Hingerty he did episode with, and he plays with her?
I think so. Yeah. I was wondering where that sounded familiar.
Kind of the Irish Janis Joplin was how they described her.
Yeah, that's right.
Something like this. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Check out.
Yeah.
Here, William Elliott Whitmore, if you're not familiar with him.
Oh, yes. Good stuff.
He's fucking incredible. We're friends with him and just amazing.
Okay. William Elliott Whitmore?
Yep. Yeah, we'll send you a link.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Okay. Any other stuff? What else have I missed out on?
Well, he's been around for a while. Listen to his episode.
Yeah.
It's really good.
His side project, Dope Walker, is also very good.
Yeah.
But it's him and more the same.
There's some really good area bands around here that you might like. If you were like a Replacements fan, check out. Check out Headlight Rivals.
Okay.
Headlight Rivals. Yeah. A little bit harder rock. Godzillionaire. Check them out. We're big fans of theirs.
Okay.
That was Mark Hennessy from Paw. I don't know if you remember them from the 90s.
Yeah. Okay.
He's got a new project. It's better than Paw. It really is.
It's insanely good.
Yeah.
Very good stuff. Well, yeah, we can send you links to all that stuff.
I've been real into, Bill Callahan and Will Oldham stuff. The stuff that they've done on Patreon and things, like the Billie Eilish cover. That was incredible. Like, this kind of weird, just the stuff that, I don't know. Callahan is a seriously interesting person. I remember seeing it was Build a Smog in Memphis, I think in 98. And it was pissing rain outside. It was really pouring. And like, he walked into the High Tone and there's like 8 people in there and he's covered in just soaked and everything. He gets on stage and he gets his guitar out and all of that. And he looks miserable and he walks up to the microphone and everybody's kind of standing there. It's really quiet. It's really awkward, really uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And he just said, like, how the fuck did Elvis Presley like come from here? He just stares at everybody like it's murder. It's kind of like, he goes, I just drove past like a churchyard full of like crosses to fetuses, like And right, like how the hell did that is why Elvis came,
right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of saying there's this thing of rebellion, but his recent stuff, like it's just it's funny. Like the dude's just, I don't know. There's a lot of good stuff out there, isn't there?
Oh, there's really just so much, and I can't keep up with it.
No, that's it.
But yeah, man, I've been really digging your new track. It's great. The ones and zeros.
Thanks. I'll send you guys on the rest of the record.
I love the name of the record.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. That was a moment. Like, there's a guy named Mundy over here, and I mean, there's nothing new under the sun, you know. Like John Boyle would have played with Mundy as well, but I saw a Mundy poster. Like I hadn't heard his music yet, but I saw this poster that said like, and his music is good, but it said the moon is a bullet hole, and I thought, oh wait, I can do that. I can do that. And I told him like, you know, a while ago, I was like, so I rewrote that thing, you know. And this is the night that he met my friend James Taylor. And when he said like, hey, I'm Monday, he said, hi, Tuesday. And it was just a weird night. So it took me 2 or 3 times to tell him Monday, look, I made a record and rewrote your fucking, don't get upset about this later, you know, kind of thing. And it kind of dawned on him. I think it's, I mean, I don't know. I think the Graceless Age is sort of accurate, you know, like the scripts are out. But I think maybe the stars really are gods. Maybe we're just looking at everything the wrong way, you know. Maybe God is like turning the gun around on us now.
So yeah, for everybody listening, the title is actually "The Stars Are God's Bullet Holes."
Yeah, they might be. I mean, they might be. You know, we
you never know. Makes as much sense as anything.
Well, I mean, you know, we look externally, but maybe we're the problem, you know.
Yeah. Starting to agree with that more and more. That's for sure. All right. Well, John, we don't want to take up your whole night and everything. And
oh man, that's good talking to y'all though.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I had a great time getting to know you.
By the way, who have we been talking to? I don't think we've actually formally introduced you the entire.
That's class. Oh, that's great. My name's John Murry. Hey,
John. Nice to meet
John.
you.
No, it's nice to meet you too, John. Man, sorry that I know.
Yeah,
we just got to talking. Sorry, I'm good at talking about myself. Thank you, guys.
Hey, man, you did a great job.
Did a great job. Yeah, we had a good time.
We really appreciated it. Yeah,
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
All right, well, thanks for coming on with.
Thanks for joining us. You've been listening to Undetermined the podcast with our special guest. We'll say it again, John Murry.
Thanks, man.
Thanks a lot.
See you guys.